Everyone. Today we're going to talk about Kubernetes. Yes, a lot of us are getting familiar with Kubernetes. Some of you might already be experts. And today we're going to talk about how you can use MySocket.io and Kubernetes to make it very easy to make your Kubernetes workloads globally available on an any-custom network, giving you all the performance and security that MySocket.io brings. All right, so basically, what we're going to talk about is this thing on the left here, and we'll dig into a little bit. But essentially, what we're going to install briefly here is a new MySocket controller, which is a Kubernetes controller, which essentially will listen for specific events in the Kubernetes API for which workloads would like to be enabled or exposed to MySocket, so that they get to benefit from sort of these public endpoints and for their deployments get public IPs, public names, TLS certificates, and so on and so forth. Okay, so Let's dig in. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So to install that, and we'll do that in a second, all we need to do is go to this, download this MySocket D YAML file, which you can find in the MySocket.io Kubernetes controller repository. And we'll take a quick look at this, what it does. So it creates a namespace, then it creates a few secrets. And this is important because if you're going to use this, you're going to download this YAML file, which is basically all you really need. And you need to update these 3 lines so that it matches the credentials that you're using for MySocket.io. So your email, your password, and the private key that is used to set up the tunnels. Other than that, it's all the same. Service accounts are being created, some role accounts, some bindings, and then eventually we create the deployment in which the controller runs, and you can see that this is the actual container that is running the controller. Okay, so let's take a look at what it takes to deploy this. So we're going to just we've downloaded that file. I've updated it with my secrets, and this is what it looks like. So it's creating all the namespaces, it's creating the accounts, creating the deployment. So let's take a look at so there's one pod, as you can see. So that is the pod that's running the controller and also acts as the forwarder. So we can pull up the logs, so we want to keep an eye on that going forward. We just copy paste that correctly. There we go. So you can see how the controller was started. We'll also take a quick look here on the top left. This is the account that the controller uses to create the sockets and the tunnels. And I'm just kind of monitoring to see if anything has been created. Well, no new sockets are created yet because all we've done so far with this sort of one-line installer is install the controller. And the controller is now monitoring for workloads that would like to use MySocket in this cluster. Okay, so that was pretty easy. Now that we installed the controller, which is essentially this left part, now we'd like to have maybe a demo deployment that we can use and expose to the internet through MySocket.io. And so to do that, I'm going to install 2 additional things. To start, I'm going to deploy this deployment, right? So a deployment contains a few pods, in this case 3, which we can take a quick peek. You can find that in the examples folder, and this is the deploy. And so the deploy basically creates a new namespace for my demo app, and it installs this, or it will run this Docker container, which essentially is a little Python web service that just prints the host name, which we'll later on use to see if the load balancing works correctly. And we're asking for 3 replicas. So it will install 3 pods for this app. Okay, so we can do that right now. So it's just another install here. Okay, excellent. So now that is created. So now we've created the workload. So that was pretty simple, right? So that was sort of this part here. And now we need this yellow box in the middle. So this service that essentially acts as a logical abstraction for this deployment for these 3 pods and in cluster load balancer. So we can take a quick peek for those who are interested at what that looks like, but it's all pretty simple just for this demo. Again, it uses the same, so it's a type service, uses the same demo app namespace. And this line is important because now for all your services, you can add this one line annotation, MySocket.io enabled equals true. And the controller will basically look for services that have this set to true. And if so, it will check, is there already a socket created for this in the MySocket API? If not, it will create one. It will also create a tunnel if needed and set up the data plane, and will then basically forward to this controller or this service that is listening on port 8000 and load balancing to the 3 pods. Okay, so let's take a look at how we deploy that. So essentially, that's just adding another YAML file. Now, we could have put this all in the same YAML file, obviously, but just for demo purposes, I wanted to keep it simple. All right, so for those of you who've been paying attention, you might have seen some movement here. So you could see that it picked up that it needed to create a new socket, and you could see that happened literally within like 1 to 2 seconds. So this is basically instantly. And it looks like I could see the logs here too. So let's take a quick peek here to see. Yeah, I can see the same thing. So I can see how it created blue snowflake, the same as here. So let me just maybe copy paste that and throw that in a browser. Let's see if that works. Excellent, yeah. And so this string should change. I have 3 pods and it's load balancing over that. So let's take a quick peek. Yeah, I can see it changing every time. Might also see here, you could see the logs, so I get to see exactly what's happening. And since it's load balancing, I should be able to see that. So let's first look at what we actually deployed. So if we do kubectl get all for this demo app, we could see the 3 pods and the service, and this service is enabled for mysocket.io. So that's why it was created, this socket. And so now if we do a quick load balancing test, so I'm just going to do 60 curls. And since we have 3 containers, I'm seeing roughly 20 over each of the pods here. And so that brings us to the end of this demo. I hope you found it easy to follow along, and you could see how easy it is to install this new MySocket controller in your Kubernetes cluster. Just update those 3 lines with your credentials and install the YAML file, and you're good to go. And after that, just make sure that you enable this one line. Let's see, one line on any of your services, really, to say MySocket.io enabled, and you get instant global load balancing, leveraging the MySocket.io Anycasted infrastructure. All that traffic will ingress pretty quickly into our network, on average sort of like 19 milliseconds or so globally. From there on, it's forwarded to any of our global load balancers, which will then send it over the secure tunnel back into your controller, over which it's load balanced over the various pods. All right, so I hope you found that interesting. This is, for now, a bit of a proof of concept to see what's possible. If folks are interested, we can certainly expand on that. If you have any questions or suggestions, shoot me an email, reply to this blog or YouTube post, and we'll happily have a chat with you. Thank you very much.